Hey guys, just wanted to do a little review on a Enorossi BFS210 sickle bar mower I use for cutting hay. Small square bale operation in East Tennessee. Come from a disc mower to this machine just on the simplicity, ease of repair for me, cheaper cost for the width and lower horsepower requirements. It fit my operation pretty good. I've been using it for about a year. Purchased it used, is in pretty rough shape. It's a 2015 model. I think it's done a lot of acreage in its time, a lot more than me. Had some repairs, kind of got to know the machine. Like I say, I've been cutting hay with it for about a year. And so I didn't see a lot of videos on it when I went to purchase mine. So I was just gonna kind of go over it with you guys if y'all are considering it for your operation. So a lot of people, when I first started looking at it, cautioned me about it, saying, oh, a sickle bar mower, it's too slow, it won't work, get gummed up. I haven't really had any trouble with that. It is a double action sickle bar, so the sections move independent of the guards. Both actually move. If you look down here on the, I think they call it a wobble box, they're moving opposite of each other. This is kind of like a crank and an engine going two different directions. Much like a disc mower, it has a multi-belt system. It doesn't slip. I haven't had any trouble with it slipping. The only time I've had it kind of get gummed up was in some Bermuda that had been had some animals on it and rained and matted down a little bit. Had a few problems with that where I had to back up a few times in the field just to get it to clear out. This is a 7-foot cut width, which was an improvement for me over my disc mower. I think the manual says that you have to have about 30 horsepower to run this. I've got about 55. It doesn't ever know it's back there. Everything about the mower seems to function pretty well. I've seen several online when I was looking for this one, of course used. Most of the people had removed or had misplaced these limiter chains. This one still had it, but it was just wrapped around this section right here. But they were missing the flat bar where you attach it to your top link attachment. I just used this to attach it, this carabiner. That seems to work pretty good. The mower doesn't really function without that, so when you go to set it up, if you do buy a used one and don't have a manual like me, the mower won't really work without that, so you need to have that in place. The weak points of it are basically the mower itself will eat itself if you don't repair it correctly. I had to replace some of the guards. Each guard is a little two-piece section here. And when you replace them, you have to use Loctite. This thing is just vibrating back there, oscillating, and it'll back any bolt out. It doesn't matter how hard you torque it. So just use the permanent red Loctite, and if you have to take it apart, use some heat. Because if they back out, they'll run into each other and it just eats itself. So the other issue I had, I don't know what the guy before me had done with it, but it had this is kind of a weak point. This is where the guard bar attaches to that wobble box. This long skinny piece here, and then this is the guard bar where it begins and overlaps all the way back down into here. But each one of these holes is kind of a weak spot. And these are kind of like a counter bore Allen head bolt. But up here where it begins into that, these bolts are completely, or these bolt holes are completely drilled out of this initial bar that touches the wobble box. So it's kind of a weak spot. And when I got this one, it actually had a break all the way across here. I don't know if you can see where it's been repaired. We welded it. Because of COVID or whatever, these are on like back order from Italy, so you can't get them. I've got one on order. They're like $250, no big deal, but you can't get them. So that's kind of the only real weak spot in the mower I found, other than just kind of a learning curve with it, that you've got to use Loctite on every fastener on this thing. It had some damage, that damage when I got it. The other damage it had was down here. You can see the previous owner had to repair this little skid plate that sets your height when it's deployed. that you can see here where they've welded it, because this bolt, which it's got a couple of little different positions you can place it in, and it had a welded nut on the back side that had stripped out. So instead of fixing that, they had just tried to weld it back in place and make it a fixed position mower. That weld had broken loose, because it's not a great place to have a weld, because this is always running on the ground. So I welded another nut back on the other side and placed that bolt back in there. Just bought that at the hardware store. Everything about this mower is kind of expensive, because there is a lot of specific parts. Like these counterbore bolts are about $6 a piece. It's not a big deal, but when I was learning about the Loctite, I ended up spending about $25 or $30 learning that the hard way. It does have the ability to break away if you hit something, and that has got the adjustment on it. You just set the torque on that nut right there. That's worked well for me. I have struck some old stumps and things out in fields. It has never deployed just on heavy hay or anything that it shouldn't deploy on. Fairly easy to set up, attach. I run it at a slight down angle, just because some of the old timers, that's kind of what they told me to run it slightly down. It seems to work fine. No issues there. Not to where it's biting in the ground, but just where it's got a slight nose down attitude. I'll start the tractor up, lay it down, and kind of show you what it looks like here. We'll raise the mower up just a little bit, and then use my remote to lay it down. I'll hop off and look at it. So it's got a hay board. Our hay's been really dry because of, or really thin because of the drought, so it hasn't been an issue for me this year. But on the hay board out here, it's supposed to have a rod that sticks up to guide the higher crop back into your cut. The original one's still in here. It's broken off. I tried to put one on there as well. It broke off as well. Just a lot of vibration out here. I think I'm gonna have to use a plastic one, because the metal ones just work hard and snap pretty quickly. But it hasn't been an issue because everything's been pretty thin this year. But you can see, lines up pretty good, cuts well. I mean, I'm happy with it for my size operation, not doing a whole lot of hay, small squares. East Tennessee, it's pretty hilly. Fields are not really smooth like out west, but I'm very happy with it. It's a fuel saver, and when something does break, you can get to everything. There's no oil bath gearbox or anything. It's all grease, and pretty simple to take care of. I really like it. I would recommend it for smaller operations. But anyway, that's my review on this after using it for a year. Again, not really fair because I purchased it used, because I just couldn't afford a new one for what I'm doing. But hope it helped y'all.